well, and he had a couple of weeks where he struggled more. Now that he's in the shot caller position, maybe directing the flow of the game is also something that works in his favor. So with Battlefield of Eternity being the next map, I'm really interested to see how Freedom is dealing with this, since Battlefield is an extremely successful map for Fnatic. They have played 6 times here and they won 5 out of the 6 games. The only time they lost was 2 Diamond Skin.
And that's the thing that scares me, is that Freedom is known for their macro play, their heavy macro play. When it comes to team fighting, statistically, they're in the lower half in North America. They don't necessarily stand out in a lot of the categories. You know, they don't average a lot of kills. They don't average a lot of damage. They generally outplay their opponents. That's why maps like Infernal Shrines really kind of favor them. Sky Temple, things that work well for Freedom. And as Kaldor said, having the amount of games, 6 games, Freedom's only played this once. And this is a very skirmish-heavy battleground that I think definitely favors Fnatic's playstyle.
Yeah, I mean, getting into the picks, I'm interested by the Fnatic ETC ban. I mean, that's a hero that we haven't seen prioritized highly at all, or banned.
That's the ban that they have on Battlefield. It's one of,
every time.
It's one of the highly prioritized bans for them on the map. I think they had one single game where they didn't ban ETC first when they played here. It's just that they don't want to get the stun versus stun set up on their opponent's side. They themselves don't play a lot with ETC here. Okay. So this is just one of those meta things that's very typical for the team.
And the Maiev Tyrael again. I know NA was showing the Maiev Tyrael, and Mene, honestly, I feel like Mene and Psalm have been the most impressive Maevs for me throughout this tournament so far, and I'm excited to watch him play again. And instantly, Tracer Blaze picked up by Freedom. I mean, they have the Tracer and Malfurion combo, but also taking away that Blaze, like you were saying, Tim, where last game, I feel like a lot of those post-bombs would have gotten kills if it wasn't for the Blaze, so taking away an extra save.
But Fnatic already has that Tyrael and the Maiev. They'll have their own saves built into the heroes they currently have picked up, and they have other options to pick up further down the line. But Fnatic now thinking about a ban. Anything comes to mind for you, J-Hal?
When you're looking against Team Freedom, I mean, at this point, they're just showing completely new style. This is like, hey, we're not known to be a team fighting team. So this is now 2 for 2 for Tracer. Again, it feels kind of forced, but BOE, it makes a lot more sense. Braxis, I wasn't as big a fan of it. So it doesn't, for Fnatic, they can really kind of ban anything. I think that there is a threat of a Tychus, but I think Tassadar, kicking it a little bit old school. Yoda plays a lot of Tassadar, and that pairing is kind of there. It's not as necessary anymore with Malfurion, but if they do go that route, I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, my only fear with that is they don't really have very much race potential, right? Because you have Task Tracer, which doesn't race too much. I feel like they might go for something like Liming, where the 4 reset potential.
This has to be an Uther ban. I think the Anubarak is mainly to make sure that there's no cocoon on an Uther, and Uther providing armor to any pulse bomb target is just way too strong.
I mean, they could even go Rhaegar, though. You have the Ancestral again, and Europe leans a little bit more towards Rhaegar. Granted, Fnatic normally doesn't. They have started to pick the hero in the last game, but if you look at the games that they have played during 2018 in Europe, then they have very different priorities. Yeah. But yeah, Rhaegar sometimes is being taken by them, but I'm not quite sure. So I feel they would diversify with us being banned out. And Liming, just another hero that we've seen that works really well if you get a Tether, for example, into a good combo. And what we've seen with Jaina here in the last game and the poke that Liming has against the Immortal in that stalemate that we have in the middle, I feel is the main reason why Freedom now feels compelled to ban her out.
Does Sonic have an advantage? Because it's like, they don't...
I was actually
NA players aren't playing Hero League in Europe, right? Yeah. And Maiev is Mene hero, so it's like, all right, Liming seems like a good ban. We just saw amazing mage play from Sonic in game 1. What do you ban against that?
Wagmix had a lot of criticism in the past where people said that he might have a decent hero pool, but the heroes where he really excels at are limited. That's one of the criticisms that has been facing for some time. And now when you all of a sudden have him replaced with someone that you don't know, the North American teams are looking at this and like, well, what can we ban against this guy? Like, what are they going to play with right now? So they have absolutely no idea what they're facing. And in this case, Fnatic is going back to Karazim, which is, by the way, a hero that they love to play in Battlefield. It's really like Battlefield is the map where they play the most Karazim out of any European team, and they have Abathur now to boot. That's fantastic for Maiev, that's fantastic for Karazim. A lot of chase potential here, especially against Tracer.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a very difficult Tracer map for the side of Freedom. Or not map, but as far as the composition goes, Maiev, Tyrael, Monk, and Abathur, like, does it get much better than that playing into a Tracer? I don't think so. Having Palm to be able to stop the Pulse Bomb is going to be really good, as well as Sanctification. I would expect to see them pick up a second backliner on the side of Fnatic, but I actually could see them just go run an all melee comp, maybe pick up another tank and just run it down.
The whole thing with, so the Abathur thing works really well for mines. You can kind of disrupt rotations, and it's painful for Tracer. They fall back to the Tychus pickup. That's kind of like a Yoda special, right? So they play a very safe strategy, but it does control a lot of the front line. And Tychus, he can kind of just, he can sit there. One of the interesting things, I guess a dynamic that we'll see if it plays out, is that if you are managing to get a tether, remember Tychus's auto attack range, your baseline is 5.5, Tychus is sitting at 4.5, right? So Maiev, if he can get onto that hero, one kind of tricky thing that you can do, Odin, when you pop it, is unstoppable. So if you do get tethered, you could essentially just be like, oh, look, I'm actually fine here. I just popped this, you can't grab me, you can't pull me. So there is something to consider around that play.
Still have to get 10 though to get that Odin. Early game could be difficult for the Tychus. Again, that range on the minigun is quite little. Could see a lot of pickups there from the Maiev. Now, I am a bit curious as to what they're going to get for their final pickup. I don't normally see Fnatic with pure melee this aggressive. I'm feeling like we should have a range come in at some point here. But it's a matter of what does Sonic want to play, and that's where I'm racking my brain.
I mean,
One of the things is also, you could get even seven-sided here. If you get the tether into the seven-sided.
Oh, okay.
Dehaka.
Wow.
Melee.
How does Tracer get a kill on any of those heroes? Abathur not going to be there. You have Divine Palm down the road. Dehaka just goes underground. Maiev, you know, every 9 seconds you just
vaults into the top, Olympic size. You know?
So how do you get a kill?
That's true. I don't think Tracer is going to be able to get kills, but I think that's why they picked up the Tychus. I mean, I am very scared for the Tyrael heading into this game. If he steps up out of positions, gets stunned, gets rooted, gets double rooted from Arthas and Malfurion into Tychus minigun, I think he's just going to be dead.
Caldor, what do you think? I see you smirking a little.
I'm still really confused by, again, they have shaken everything up.
Yeah.
The entire shot calling, the drafting, now with Sonic in the setup. But I really liked what I saw on the last game, so I believed. I mean, this is something that we don't see a lot in Europe, but with the style that they've shown already and the synergy that we had between the players, even though they had very limited scrim time, I really feel I'm on board.
He's on board. Do you think they can win the race here, Fnatic, with this composition? Or are they going to be trying to fight more?
I mean, I think the way that they're going to look to play this out is you're going to have Abathur basically... Well, I mean, you have the Dehaka as well, so Abba and Dehaka are going to be catching the waves.
Sure.
But mainly what you're going to be looking to do is, so when you push out both the waves and they're forced to send people to respond, you're going to have Dehaka Z behind. You're going to use that Tyrael speed to basically run your whole team into them, try and get picks, try and get kills. So they're very much going to be looking to play that macro sense where it's forcing those 5v4s, right? Even though it's going to be under the opponent's immortal, you have a pretty good dive comp on the side of Fnatic.
Do you play tether here? And do you play seven-sided with tether, or do you go into a palm?
I feel like you need the tether.
Well, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and start talking about who's going to win here. It feels like the tether's going to be the pick here, but who do you think is going to win this matchup? Starting with you.
I'm giving it to Freedom, man. I'm not a big fan of the Fnatic's draft. You know, I think it can work out. It's the level of execution that's going to be required is much higher.
JL.
I hate to say it, but I actually like what Fnatic is doing, and I'm not a big fan of the draft. I think this is better for this battleground, so I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm going to go with Fnatic this go-around.
Caldor.
Just based on the last game, I believe.
No Ragnaros, I'm going with EU. Fnatic is my choice here as we get ready for game number 2. Very exciting stuff. You guys at home continue to vote and let us know what matches you think would be won by which teams. And so far, Fnatic has surprised a lot of people here. Going up to 94%, 6% there for Team Freedom. Let's see if they're able to pull off the 2-0 as we head straight to our casters.
Fnatic coming in here with Sonic, mixing things up and being successful so far. You know, the adjustments in the draft that we saw from them here has been, I mean, it is very cool to see this kind of level of innovation. What are your thoughts on the draft? Did anything stand out to you? Did you feel like one was going to pull ahead?
Full melee. That's pretty much what we're all looking at, right? And I mean, I like the discussion that was brought up. Who does Tracer kill?
It's going to be a hard one.
Yeah.
It's a really tough question. You know what? We'll get into that in a bit, Vandy. But for now, in the blue, up a game is going to be Fnatic, Mene on Maiev, Breeze on Tyrael, Karazim played by Smexy, Abathur is going to be played by Sonic, and Bad Benny on Dehaka.
And once again, rocking the red, we have Team Freedom with Lutano playing Tracer, Collusion on Malfurion, Zugrug playing Arthas, Yoda on Tychus, and Nazmez playing Blaze.
Hey, okay, so on the note of where's the kill going to happen, I think our Anos put it great. I don't see it happening that easily. I do think it's going to be, if we see Freedom be successful with that Tracer, it's probably more likely in the pre-10 scenario to where those heroics are not coming online. But I'm also really curious to see where we see Karazim go, because we saw Karazim picked up with a couple of other options in the support realm. And yes, he does accent the map very, very well, which is probably why we see that justification of the pick. I can also see that argument of like, in the cage, only cage 2, 7-sided gets a lot of immediate value, or again, the Palm to be able to deal with the pulse bomb out from them. Lutano gets reeled right in there. Collusion very, very low, and first blood already here for Fnatic. Vault coming out from Mene. Teleport with that Spirit. Lutano trying to track him down, but they force out that recall. Mene putting on a clinic as to why Maev is so difficult to be able to deal with, using the mobility and then invuln frame. Real well done.
Absolutely, and something I want to also toss up for discussion is Team Freedom, they seem to not be phased by the Maev still. Although we can see every time they get close to killing her, and also Mene was just such a pivotal part in setting up the team fights and the zoning as well, just by being there, and that aggressive positioning that he had from last game, he's just zoning them just by being there.
It's amazing, the territorial kind of area where she provides threat, right? Because you have one gap closer, all it's going to take is hitting the tether, and then suddenly your distance to be able to recover from the situation is not going to be back at your own base, right? That's where the tether comes in, and so Mene is abusing that. It's essentially your entire screen at which she can be a problem, and he is very much being exactly that. And the fact that we see Fnatic already, again, get another first blood over an early composition against Fnatic, or excuse me, Freedom, because, you know, Tracer, Malfurion compositions generally hold their own in the early game to invade over the camp. Benny's on point. We see the teleport over the wall. Yoda is going to stay and just endure the storm there. Throws down the minigun, but it's not enough to get a kill. Nazmus on point. Blaze is getting so much value out of that burn in the oil there. 3-man jet propulsion. He goes in, but he ends up dropping there, forcing the recall for Lutano. And when it's all said and done, a 2-for-0 trade, and Fnatic gets the camp. At what point does this turn around? Fnatic's just dominating.
I feel so bad for Team Freedom, because if Lutano was able to get in there earlier, you could see he was sectioned off from the rest of the team. There wasn't enough DPS coming out, but if he jumped in earlier with Blaze, that extra time to have that DPS ticking down, maybe they would have gotten a kill. Maybe they would have then turned that around. But you can already start to see the struggles that Lutano is having on that Tracer. He's just immediately just getting pushed right back out of the fight.
And that is when we suspect it to be the most successful, right? That multiple times where Lutano is struggling and we're yet to kind of hit that breaking point. But there is something to keep in mind that has changed from the last circumstances, and that is the bigger they are. Picked up there for level 4 for Tychus. Yoda is going to be able to have a large amount of single target burst to any target, and then Lutano coming in with a pulse bomb, hang the wrist, and get that final kill there.
But there he is. He's getting chunked again just by showing his face. So that's what I'm worried about. That is ideally what we'd like to see. The front line getting whittled away and then allowing Tracer to excel at the flank, which is what we want to see her to be able to do. But Mene, he's just counter-flanking? Is that a thing?
You know what? If it's not a thing, I'm ready to make it one.
I mean, with the introduction of Maev, it might have to be a thing.
I think it is. You know what? We're going with it. The counter flank is there. Breeze throws down the Aldruins. Nice protection over this Shaman camp. No team really putting too much interest into the Immortal itself, which debatably is more beneficial here for Fnatic with the slower composition. Task Tracers, or not Task Tracers, just the Tracer composition thrive at stacking this Pulse Bomb. So once again, a moment where we see Fnatic earning small victories in places where generally you would not expect looking at these comps.
And Fnatic constantly playing that macro as well, the Abathur pressure on that bottom lane, as well as the Dahaka in the top lane, netting as much experience as possible. Mene, with that root coming out on him, dropping down low.
He's real low, able to get the follow-up onto that Spirit, and too much damage onto Collusion, and already another kill there for Fnatic. Zugrug trying to get the track down on the Specs. He does have a Radiant Dash. There goes a Howling Blast being used. Tracer actually got picked there after that Radiant Dash being used by Smex. 2 more kills here for Fnatic. Before 5 minutes into this game, a full level lead onto Battlefield of Eternity. This is, I mean, we might be seeing a very, very early game here, even with the Abathur composition for Fnatic, because right now they don't look like they're stopping at any point.
No, this is almost how I was expecting Fnatic to play on Brax's holdout, because we're used to that high aggression coming out, but it's like suddenly on this map, they're not afraid to hold back. There's not that sort of, they've tested Team Freedom, if you will, in that first game, and now they know what they can get away with.
Not only did they test Team Freedom, but I feel like it's a bit of a test with Sonic as well, right? That's the first game to be able to see them here with an official match, getting up on the stage, and whether or not he's able to perform, and the answer is very much yes. After that Jaina game last game, still making the plays here today onto the Abathur. But the pressure onto the Immortal is going to be there. Lutano moves up, trying to focus onto Smex. Smex is going to Radiant dash out onto the Broccoli. Zugrug trying to get the retreat, using that Frozen Tempest, but Breeze, he commits. He's going to dive, and no punishment there yet. Fnatic, so low in HP, but they're not backing down.
No, they're just waiting for the sustain to come back. And I mean, Fnatic, like I said, they know their limits. They know what they can get away with. Lutano is trying to deal as much damage to the Immortal as possible while they have this brief respite. But I'm worried for when Fnatic are ready to get back into the swing of things. This is what I'm worried for now, the re-engage.
Collusion gets hit by the tether, forced to go into a terrible position, but the Moonbird actually is proccing the heal and keeping him alive. Smex under so much damage, but he keeps up with that Radiant dash out. But Malfurion is secure there with Breeze in the Aldruin. Does it cost him his life? Lutano trying to trace it down, the shielding. Abathur with the shield, and again, Fnatic with nearly no HP everywhere is getting all of the kills. They are just dismantling Team Freedom.
This is unbelievable. Yoda now, the last remaining member. Mene's looking, knows he has to back off now, but they did what they needed to, and this is what I was so worried about, the re-engage coming out from Fnatic. There's just no stopping them, really. And you said they're getting away with it with just tiny slivers of health.
And now it's at a point where when you have those micro victories multiple times, you know, you add a small piece, and when we look at 6 minutes in, it's a huge advantage now. They are rounding 10, and Freedom is rounding 8. The Heroics with a 60% shielded Immortal. I'm confident that Fnatic, as long as they are able to defend off this, they want to be aiming for potentially a keep. But then look at this. Benny's actually taking the slow play, so instead showing for a much longer late game oriented thought process here from Benny. Not what I would have expected with this big of a lead, but he is going to use this hat here. No way Nazmus can deal with this 2 versus 1. Not enough armor in the world for that. And the talent here advantage is, I mean, something they have to be considering.
Yeah, you need to respect the Abathur hat. He has gone the symbiote build, meaning that he is going to be just adding so much damage and sustain to anyone that he does choose to hat. But that little skirmish in the bot lane, Dreads, you wanted to say something?
No. I'm just still really kind of perplexed here. But the laning decision from Fnatic is, it's not the decision making to play the slow game, but it's to play the slow game with this big of a lead. It is, I mean, generally speaking, Freedom's nowhere near 10 still, and Dahaka's not concerned about forcing this 5 versus 4.
You don't need to.
Not looking to fight. Maybe that's the case. They are so confident within that they're going to be able to do this without. They pull in with that tether. 7-sided goes down. Nazmus is not long for this world. 20 more seconds till he's back, but the keep is now the focus here for Fnatic. So yeah, they just didn't even feel like they needed Benny. Perfectly calculated, get the kill, and now get the keep. Pull onto Zugrug. Nice route there from Collusion. Locks down Fnatic, and they're not able to move farther for a kill. But we got to bring it back to experience. Still 12-9.
8-minute keep. 8-minute top keep. I am getting super duper scared for Team Freedom now.
Yes, it's one of those kind of, where's the future, where's the advantage going to come back for them? Where are they going to be able to make up for it? And they're inevitably not going to have the 13 talent here at the same time at which Fnatic is going to. It does feel like there's going to hit a moment of desperation where they try and force the fight into the middle aspects of the map. And normally I'd be like, that's pretty realistic, except for when looking at the Abathur Dahaka side pressure. Those two together are going to make sure that both lanes are catastrophic for Freedom, and somebody has to go back and deal with that. And without a keep that early on, it really does make it to where Fnatic has bought themselves, it feels like 5 minutes of forgiveness, where they can make mistake after mistake, and then you say, the game's now even.
Yeah. They just got so much of a lead that they've built up now, and it's just going to continue to worsen with that catapult pressure in the top lane. As you said, the double global as well, just netting them so much. Fnatic are winning not only in the team fights, but the macro, and that's when Fnatic is at their scariest. They play the macro so that they can win the team fights. But then when you're Team Freedom, you're like, okay, what can we really exploit here? Not a lot, right? What are our options?
There's very few, it feels like here, but 14 seconds out and the options are going to have to be unveiled if any remain onto this map. Again, this is still going to be nowhere near the same talent tier. What does Freedom want to do? Realistically speaking, generally people go with the idea that a 13 talent tier is easier to fight into the 16. For most heroes in the game, the 13 is a bit more defensive. It's obviously amazing to be able to have the talent tier over your opponent, but if you have to choose one, this is the one to take. So I'd like to see Freedom be aggressive and take this, even if it might be a game-losing team fight.
Team Freedom, like you said, it's going to be do or die for them. Otherwise, they're just going to have their base and pretty much the game slowly choked and strangled away from them instead of just being able to do what they want to do with the game.
And yeah, you can see it with the side lanes. Look at Dahaka. He's trying to get caught out. Nade misses the interrupt there, not going to land.
Rough.
and that means that Benny is able to make it out. Yoda, not able to deal with the camp up on bottom. They're only going to focus onto his Smexy, get a little bit more damage. Jet Propulsion comes in. Drag is going to be used. Nasmus drops the bunker. We see the Odin. This is the disengage moment for Fnatic. And then looking to get a tap and then fight now without the Odin. 2 cooldowns here for Freedom. They tried to get the fight, just Fnatic playing controlled. They understand the circumstances so well, Vandy.
Exactly. They understand when Team Freedom are at their most deadly and lethal and when they expect to lose a fight. They don't want to give them that advantage
Delay?
by fighting the Odin. Oh, no.
The Hat was unable to get the delay because Fnatic's going for the core here with 3 members. Smexy and Mene actually have pretty good damage there. Sanctification is going to be available. You see Nasmus trying to block the minions. 60% and counting. Sanctification going to be dropped. There's the cage. And I don't know if they can stop this here. 30, 20, and that is all she wrote. Fnatic here, again, using the checkmate macro play and locking down another game, 2-0 over Freedom.
Cool, calm, and collected. That's how I'm going to describe Fnatic.